Let me ask you a question that'll get a rise out of darn near every goat owner in this country. Where's your goat right now? Go on. Look up from that phone and tell me you know for certain. 'Cause I've been raising goats on this place for the better part of 40 years, and I can tell you that a goat ain't livestock in the way a cow is livestock. A cow looks at a fence and sees a wall. A goat looks at that same fence and sees a puzzle, a project, a personal invitation. She'll stand there chewing and studying it like a preacher studying scripture, and sooner or later she'll find the one weak spot you didn't know you had. And she won't just slip through it herself, neither. She'll go get her sisters and show 'em how she done it. And that right there is why something real interesting has been happening the last handful of years. Folks all over, big commercial outfits, little 5-acre homesteads, brush clearing operations, fella down the road with 3 Nubians and a lawn he's tired of mowing, they've all been quietly switching over to electric fence for their goats. Not all-wire woven fence, not cattle panels, not the old-fashioned barbed wire our granddaddies strung. Electric. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Electric fence sounds like a gadget. Sounds like something that'll quit working the minute you turn your back, and then you're chasing goats down the county road in your house shoes at daylight. And I'll be honest with you, done wrong, that's exactly what happens. I've seen it. I've done it. But done right, an electric fence is the single best thing that ever happened to keeping goats. And today I'm going to tell you exactly why. And I'm going to tell you the honest truth about what it costs, what it takes, and the 5 mistakes that make folks say it don't work. So grab your coffee, settle in on a tailgate, and let's get into it. 'Cause this one's going to save you money, save your fence line, and save you a whole lot of hollering at animals that ain't listening to you anyhow. But before we get to why everybody's switching, we got to be real honest about the thing they're switching away from, and that's the traditional physical fence. Now understand me, I ain't got a thing against a good woven wire fence. A proper goat and sheep woven wire 4-inch by 4-inch mesh on good posts, tight and true, that is a fine fence. I've got some of it on this place and it's been standing since Reagan. But here's the honest arithmetic on it, and this is where folks start getting religion about electric. A physical fence works by being stronger than the goat. That's the whole theory. And that means every single day of that fence's life, it's taken a beating. Goats don't lean on a fence like a cow does. Goats climb it. They stand up on it with their front feet to reach that one honeysuckle vine growing just past the wire, 'cause the browse on the other side is always sweeter. They rub on it, and a goat rubbing with a good winter coat is like a wire brush that never quits. They put their heads through it, and if they've got horns, they get hung up, and then they twist and thrash till either the wire gives or their neck does. And they do all this every single day, all year long, forever. So what happens is your woven wire starts out tight, and by year 5 it's bellied out at the bottom where they've been standing on it. By year 8 there's a stretched out spot at the corner where the herd queen worked on it. And every one of them soft spots is a place a goat is gonna get out. And repairing woven wire ain't fun work. You can't just splice it and walk off. You gotta stretch it, and stretching wire is a 2-man job on a hot day with a come-along and a vocabulary. Then there's the cost, and this is the part that really turns folks. Good goat woven wire, by the time you've bought the roll, bought the post, bought the corner braces, and either paid a crew or spent your own 3 weekends on it, you are looking at real money per foot, real money. And the more acres you fence, the worse it gets, 'cause that cost is the same every single foot of the way. Fencing 40 acres in woven wire ain't a project, it's a mortgage. And here's the kicker that nobody tells you. That expensive, back-breaking permanent fence, it don't move. Ever. So the minute you decide you'd rather graze that pasture different, or you buy the neighbor's 10 acres, or you figure out that goats do a whole lot better rotated onto fresh browse instead of eating one lot down to the dirt, well, your fence don't care what you figured out. It's set in concrete where you put it, and there it'll stay. So that's the old way. Strong, expensive, permanent, and slowly losing a war against an animal that weighs 100 pounds and has all day to think about it. Now let's talk about what electric fence actually is, because this is the part most folks get wrong in their head. And once you get it right, everything else makes sense. An electric fence is not a physical barrier. Say that with me. It is not a barrier. A determined goat could walk through a single strand of electric wire like it was a spider web. Physically, it ain't stopping nothing. An electric fence is a psychological barrier. That's the whole game. It don't hold the goat in with strength. It holds the goat in with memory. That goat walks up, sticks her nose out to test it like she tests everything, and she gets a lesson she does not forget. It ain't gonna hurt her. It don't burn her. It don't injure her. It's a short, sharp pulse, and it's over. But in her mind, that fence line becomes a place where something bad lives. And a goat who believes the fence will bite her ain't gonna lean on it, ain't gonna climb it, ain't gonna rub on it, and ain't gonna spend her afternoons studying it for weak spots. You follow what that means? On a woven wire fence, the goat is always working against you. On a hot electric fence, the goat is working for you. She's keeping herself away from your fence line, all on her own, for free, every day, forever. Your fence quits taking a beating. It just sits there doing nothing but humming, and it lasts about 3 times as long. That's the whole reason for the big switch, right there in a nutshell. But let me lay out the specific advantages one at a time, because each one of them is worth money to you. Advantage number 1. The cost per foot ain't in the same county. A high-tensile electric fence, say 5 strands on decent post with a good energizer, will run you a fraction of what woven wire costs per foot. And it ain't a small fraction. Folks who've priced both out honest generally find electric comes in somewhere around 1/4 to 1/3 the cost of a comparable woven wire fence. Sometimes better than that on long straight runs. Now why is that? Simple. You ain't buying a giant heavy roll of steel mesh. You're buying a handful of skinny wires, and skinny wire is cheap. You ain't setting a heavy post every 8 feet to hold up all that weight and tension, 'cause there's hardly any weight to hold. You can stretch your posts out considerable further apart. And you don't need all them heavy braced corners, 'cause high-tensile electric wire don't need near the tension a woven fence does. The one thing you do gotta buy that woven wire don't need is the energizer, the charger. And that's a real upfront cost. A couple $100 for a good one, sometimes more. But here's the thing. That charger is a one-time buy, and it powers your whole system, whether that's 500 feet or 5 miles. So the further you got a fence, the better electric looks. The math gets better every foot you go, where woven wire's math just gets worse. Advantage number 2, it works on the animal, not against her. I already touched on this, but I want to put a finer point on it, because it's the piece that saves you all the labor down the road. A trained goat on a hot fence quits testing. She quits climbing. She quits sticking her fool head through the wire and getting hung up by them horns. And by the way, if you've ever had to cut a goat loose from a woven wire fence in July, or worse, found one too late, you know exactly what that's worth. Electric fence pretty much ends that whole category of grief. And that means your fence maintenance goes from stretching and splicing and rebuilding to walking the line with a tester and knocking the weeds down. That's it. That's the job. My daddy spent his Saturdays fixing fence. I spend mine checking fence. Big difference in a man's life.
Advantage number 3, and this one's bigger than most folks realize. It works both directions. Here's something woven wire's real poor at. A woven wire fence keeps your goats in, sort of, but it does mighty little to keep trouble out. A coyote goes over it or under it without breaking stride. A neighbor's dog, and let me tell you plain, the neighbor's dog kills more goats in this country than every coyote and every bobcat put together. That dog will dig under a woven fence in about 4 minutes. But a hot fence don't care which side you're on. A coyote hits that wire nose first, and he takes his lesson right along with everybody else, and he don't come back to your place. He goes and bothers somebody else. A dog does the same. And if you run a hot wire low, down around 6 inches off the ground, and another one out on the outside a ways, you have made your place a real unpleasant place to be a predator. For a lot of folks, that right there is the whole reason they switched. They weren't even having escape problems. They were burying goats. Advantage number 4, you can move it. And moving it changes everything. This is the one I'd argue is the biggest deal of all. And it's the one nobody thinks about till they've done it. Goats ain't grazers by nature, they're browsers. They want brush, they want leaves, they want weeds and briars and saplings and honeysuckle and multiflora rose. Turn goats loose on the same one lot year-round, and 2 things happen. 1, they eat all the good browse in the first season, and then they're standing in a dirt lot eating hay you bought. And 2, and this is the serious one, they build up a parasite load in that ground that'll make you sick to think about. Barber pole worm is the #1 killer of goats in the South, and the way you fight it ain't with dewormer, it's with movement. You move them off the ground before them larvae come back up the grass to get them. Now try rotational grazing with woven wire. You can't. You'd have to build permanent fence for every paddock, and you'd go broke doing it. But with electric, portable electric netting or a couple strands of polywire on step-in posts, you move that fence in 20 minutes. One fella, one afternoon, and you've got a whole new paddock. You strip graze that brush lot, take the good top growth, and move them on before they eat it to the ground or pick up a worm load. Your goats get better nutrition, your brush gets cleared even, your pasture recovers, your worm problems drop way off, and your dewormer bill and your vet bill drop right along with them. That ain't just a fence. That's a whole different way of keeping goats, and it only got possible 'cause of electric. All right, now I've been selling you pretty hard, so let me turn around and be the honest old man for a minute. 'Cause electric fence fails for people all the time, and when it fails ugly. And near every single time, it's one of 5 mistakes. If you're going to switch, you gotta know these. Mistake number 1, and it's the biggest by a mile, an undersized, underpowered charger. Folks go to the farm store, they see a little charger on the shelf that says it'll do 25 miles of fence, and it's $40, and they think, well, shoot, I've only got half a mile, this'll be plenty. No, sir, it will not. 2 things about them mileage ratings. First, they're figured on one single strand of clean wire in a laboratory with no weeds touching it, which ain't a thing that exists on your farm. Second, and this is the important part, goats are the hardest animal there is to fence electrically, harder than cattle by a long shot. And the reason is that hair coat. A goat's got a thick insulating coat of hair, and a cashmere type goat or an Angora in full fleece is damn near wearing a rubber suit. That pulse has got to find bare skin, the nose mostly, and it's got to hit hard enough to be memorable through all that. So forget miles.
shot by joules and shot by volts. For goats, you want a low impedance energizer, and you want enough output that you're reading at minimum 4,000 volts on the fence, 4 kilovolts, and honestly, I'd rather see it 5 to 7,000. Under 3,000 volts, and a goat in a good coat will just walk on through and never look back. And once one goat learns the fence is a bluff, you have lost the whole herd, because they watch each other. And buy more charger than you think you need. Every extra strand of wire, every 100 feet of length, every weed touching the wire, every wet green stem bleeding current to ground, all of it eats your voltage. A charger that's twice as big as you need costs maybe $60 more, and it is the best $60 in this whole system. Mistake number 2, bad grounding. This is the silent killer. Now listen close, because this is the one that trips up more folks than anything, and it's the one they never figure out. An electric fence ain't a complete circuit until that pulse goes out the wire, through the goat, into the dirt, and back to your charger through your ground rods. If your grounding is sorry, that circuit don't complete, and your fence will read fine on a cheap tester and still not shock a thing. So, you want proper galvanized ground rods, 6 to 8 foot, drove all the way down. Not one little stub of rebar you happen to have laying behind the barn. And for a good-sized charger, you want 3 of them, spaced at least 10 foot apart, all wired together with proper insulated wire and good clamps. And you want them in ground that stays damp if you can manage it, down in a low spot, over by where the water trough overflows, in the shade. Dry, sandy ground is terrible ground, and if that's what you've got, you need more rods, and you need to look into a ground return system, where you run a return wire on the fence itself. I have been called out to 3 neighbors' places over the years for a fence that don't work, and every single time it was the ground rods. Every time. Mistake number 3, wrong wire spacing, or in plain words, building it for cattle. A cow is a big, tall animal with a big nose out front. You can hold a cow with one wire at nose height, and she'll never bother you. A goat is a low, small, flexible, curious animal that would rather go under than over, every time. And a kid goat is about the size of a house cat. So for goats, you need more strands, and you need them close, and you especially need them close down low. 5 strands minimum, and I'd rather see 6. Your bottom wire wants to be right down around 6 to 8 inches off the ground, 'cause that's where the trouble is. That's where the kids slip out, and that's where the dogs come in. Then space them on up about every 6 to 8 inches through the low half of the fence, and you can spread them wider up top where a goat ain't likely to be. Get your top wire up around 40 inches or better, and if you've got a jumper in the herd or a buck who smells a doe in season, go higher still. And I'll say this plain about bucks. A buck in rut ain't a goat. He's a missile with a mind. Nothing holds him but a whole lot of fence and a whole lot of voltage, and you plan for that separate. Now, if all that's sounding complicated, that's exactly why electric netting got so popular for goats. It's a prefab poly net, usually 35 to 42 inches tall, with all the horizontal wires already spaced right for goats and posts built into it. You roll it out, tie the ends, hook up your charger, and you're fenced. It's more money per foot than bare wire, but for portable paddocks it can't be beat, and it takes the spacing guesswork clean off your plate. Just remember, that net's got to stay hot, and it's got to stay reasonably upright, 'cause a sagging dead net is a place a goat gets tangled, and that's a bad afternoon. Mistake number 4, not training the goats. This one just about breaks my heart, 'cause it's so easy to get right and folks skip it. You do not turn a goat loose on 40 acres of new electric fence and hope she figures it out. You train her. You put her in a small pen, a little lot where she can't get up ahead of steam, and you run a hot wire in there where she's obliged to meet it while she's calm and paying attention. Some folks hang strips of aluminum foil on the wire with a smear of peanut butter or molasses on them. And I'll tell you what, that works like a charm. She goes to lick that sweet stuff with a wet nose and tongue, which is about the best conductor on a goat, and she gets a lesson she will carry to her grave. Give her 2 or 3 days in that training pen. Let her learn it while she's calm, in a place where her instinct to run don't send her through the fence. 'Cause here's the thing you got to understand about a goat that panics. A panic goat goes through, and a goat that went through and got away has learned that the fence can be beat. That's the lesson you never want her to learn. Train 'em calm, and she'll respect that wire for the rest of her life. Skip the training, and you'll be teaching her the wrong lesson at a dead run. Mistake number 5, setting it and forgetting it. An electric fence ain't a wall. A wall works whether you look at it or not. An electric fence is a system, and a system needs checking. Buy a fence tester. Not the little neon light kind that just says, yep, something's happening. Get a proper digital voltmeter that reads you a number, $50, $60. Then walk your line, or at minimum check it at the far end from your charger, and check it regular. Every week in the growing season. 'Cause here's what happens. Come May and June, that green growth comes up like a house afire, and every wet green weed leaning on your bottom wire is draining voltage into the dirt. You can go from 6,000 volts down to 1,500 in 3 weeks of good rain and never notice till your herd's in the garden. So keep your fence line clean. Mow it, spray it, weed eat it, run a strip of bare ground under it, whatever suits you. Just keep the green off the wire. And check your voltage. That's the whole maintenance program. Compared to stretching woven wire, that's a picnic. Now let me put some real numbers on this so you can figure your own place, because I don't like advice without arithmetic. Say you're fencing a 5-acre lot, roughly square. That's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,900 feet of perimeter.
In good goat woven wire with posts and braces, you're looking at a serious number. For most folks, several $1,000s in materials alone, and a solid 2 or 3 weekends of the hardest work you'll do all year. More if you're setting corners in concrete. That same 1,900 feet in 5-strand high-tensile electric, your wire's cheap, your posts are further apart and lighter. Add in a good low-impedance charger and 3 proper ground rods and a tester, and you're generally looking at somewhere around 1/3 of the woven wire cost, sometimes better, and considerably less sweat. And when you decide next spring you want to split that 5 acres into 4 paddocks for rotation, you buy a roll of polywire and a bundle of step-in posts for pocket change, and you do it Saturday morning before dinner. And on the charger, one more practical word. You got 3 flavors. Plug-in AC is the strongest and the cheapest to run and the most reliable. If you can get power to it, that's what you want. Battery is for spots with no power, and it works fine, but you're on the hook for keeping that battery charged, and a dead battery is a dead fence. Solar is the sweet spot for portable paddocks way out yonder. Buy a bigger one than you think you need, because the joule ratings on solar units are optimistic, and a week of gray southern drizzle will show you what your panel's really made of. So if you're asking me what I'd do on a place today, starting fresh, here it is plain. I'd put good, permanent, physical fence, woven wire or cattle panel, around just 2 places. Around my working pens and around any lot that touches a road. 'Cause a hot fence depends on power, and power fails, and I ain't gambling a goat's life against a log truck on account of a blown breaker. Then everything else, every pasture, every brush lot, every paddock, I'd do in electric. High tensile, 5 or 6 strands, bottom wire down around 6 inches, top wire up 42 or better, on a low impedance charger sized about double what the box says I need,
with 3 good ground rods drove deep in the dampest dirt on the place. I'd train every animal that comes onto this farm in a small pen with foil and molasses before she ever sees the big lot. I'd hang a tester on a nail by the barn door and walk that line once a week from March to October. And I'd keep a roll of electric netting and a bundle of step-in posts in the shed at all times, 'cause that's how I rotate 'em off the worms and onto fresh browse, and that one habit has done more for the health of my herd than any bottle of medicine I ever bought. That's it. That's the whole system. Cheaper to build, easier to maintain, keeps your goats in, keeps the dogs and the coyotes out, and it moves when you need it to move. Now, is it foolproof? No, sir, nothing is. And anybody tells you different is selling something.
But a physical fence ain't foolproof neither. It's just foolproof in a way that costs you 3 times as much and beats you down every summer. So there you have it. That's why everybody's switching to electric for goats. And it ain't a fad, and it ain't a gadget. It's cheaper per foot. It lasts longer 'cause the animals quit fighting it. It keeps predators out as good as it keeps goats in, and it lets you move your animals around the way a goat's stomach was built to be moved. Get your charger big enough, get your ground rods deep enough, get your bottom wire low enough, train your animals proper, and check your voltage. Do them 5 things, and that fence will hold goats, and holding goats, friend, is about the highest compliment you can pay a fence. If this helped you out, do me a favor and hit that like button. It truly does help this old channel grow. And if you ain't subscribed yet, come on and join us. I put out honest, dirt under the fingernails homestead advice every single week, straight off this farm. And you tell me down in the comments, what are you running for fence right now? And what's the slickest escape your goats ever pulled on you? I read every one of them, and Lord knows I've got stories of my own. Now get on out there and go check your voltage.
That's all for today, folks. If this helped you for your farm, hit the like button, subscribe for more honest farm advice, and I'll see you next time, right here from the farm.